We certainly do. Joining us live in studio, Congressman August Pfluger. Good morning.
Good morning, Kris. Good morning, Spencer. Thanks for having me.
Oh, always.
Absolutely.
It's great to be in studio. It's great to be in Odessa. It's a beautiful morning.
It is. It really is. Enjoy this cool weather. This is the coolest it's going to be, and it's 81. And that's just in the studio. So, how did it go yesterday? You had your town hall meeting at noon yesterday at the Bush Convention Center. I love that place. So glad you were there for town hall. Said you had a great turnout. How'd it go?
It was a great turnout. We had a great meeting. And, look, constituents are concerned. They want to know what's going on.
Absolutely.
We had a good discussion about many of the things. Not all, because it would take hours to cover that.
Mm-hmm.
But, I appreciate the fact that people come to those meetings, because when I go to Washington, D.C., when we have a hearing, I try my best to relay the stories and the sentiments and the feelings and the thoughts and concerns of people right here in Midland and Odessa, of what they're thinking, of what we're feeling. And I do that in hearings, on floor speeches, and so it was great yesterday. We covered a lot of topics, and rightfully so. People are concerned about where this country is headed. But I will tell you, I sensed hope in the room. I sensed a lot of hope in the room, and that was really good to see.
Now, you did say that one of the things they were really excited about, and I told you I drove to Austin and saw your big billboard there in San Angelo, but people are really excited about what you've done with the permitting. And we know right now oil's a little down, but that's because of that little hiccup in Russia. But what else did they want to know about, and what is going on with the permitting, EPA, and so forth?
Well, I'll answer the first part. There were concerns about, things that are going on within the DOJ, concerns about how there's two tiers of justice in this country, concerns, about just all of the social issues. But when it comes to energy, and I'm sure we'll discuss those other pieces, but when it comes to energy, I think the constituents of District 11, which goes from Odessa through Midland all the way to Killeen, Texas, I think the constituents of this district sent me to Washington, D.C. with a mission. And that mission was to protect energy. It's a national security issue.
More like a mandate.
It's a mandate. Yeah. That was my job description, was to go to Washington. We've already this year brought almost 30 congressmen to the Permian Basin. We've had 2 official congressional hearings right here in the Permian Basin. We've passed the most transformative permitting reform in 40 years. H.R. 1, which Speaker McCarthy said, this is my most important piece of legislation, dealt with producing energy here, having permits that are reasonable and timely and don't take 10 years, being able to develop the refineries and the systems to use our products to lower the cost right here and to get it to our allies. So when it comes to energy, I'm the chairman of what they call the HEAT team, the House Energy Action Team. We've had speakers like Travis Stice and other people who've come to Washington, D.C. to educate my colleagues. I'm really excited. There's not a single one of the 435 people who do not know. That's 435 representatives, not all Republicans, but not a single one of them have not heard the name Permian Basin. They know where it is. They know what it does. And that was my mission. Mm-hmm. And now it's time to take those steps, turn it into legislation, and unleash American energy, which Odessa and Midland know a little bit about that.
Just a bit. And you've been so good about bringing them down here to the Permian Basin. I was blessed to get to watch when you brought them to the Bush Convention Center. Real quick, I'm going to side rail you here and bring up something that you didn't know I was going to bring up, but I know you well enough. They are starting back up air refueling for jets. And, my father was also a pilot in the Air Force. And what do you think about that?
Well, I've done a lot of air-to-air refueling
Knew
myself.
you did.
You might have a little experience.
A little experience with that. I didn't know if they knew you were a pilot.
Well, it's something I know a little bit about. I think it's interesting when you extend the range.
Yes, sir.
And you look at it in a commercial perspective. We could go 10, 12 hours in those little fighters that don't have that long a range. So I think it will be interesting to see that and many other, advances in the commercial industry. How are we going to do it more efficiently, get people there? People want stability, they want to get there faster, and they want the cost to be lowered.
Yeah.
While the Biden administration is trying to kill the energy sector and fossil fuels, I kind of threw that out there to say, Okay, seriously, how are you going to fly a plane? How are you going to drive a car and so forth? Don't have an infrastructure for electric vehicles. So,
How soon before we have electric fighter jets?
With the
Congressman?
solar panel on the top.
There you
That-
go.
there you
if
go.
it were up
Not
to the
gonna
Biden
happen.
administration, but they're trying to convince the American public. There's 287 million cars on the road in this country. And they're trying to convince the American public that electricity is a transportation fuel. Well, we know that's not true. Nothing against electric vehicles. If you own one, that's great. But it needs to be a fair market, level playing field, and they don't work in every situation. Certainly when you're running between Andrews and Odessa or when you're going between Midland and Big Spring, they don't work out in distances like this. They don't work in certain areas. And to mandate it and to say that we can just double the amount of electricity like the Secretary suggested to me in a hearing, Secretary of Energy this is unreasonable. It's unrealistic. And
now, how much experience do a lot of these folks have when they're trying to get someone that is from this area, just lives and breathes what is going on here in the Permian Basin, and you're dealing with people in Washington? How much experience do they actually have with the energy sector, with the wind turbines, with the solar energy, and so forth?
My first question to most of these witnesses is, when is the last time you visited the Permian Basin? And their answer is generally, well, I haven't. This is the EPA administrator. This is the Secretary of Energy. And Secretary Granholm said, well, I would do it, but you haven't invited me. I said, that's actually, Secretary, I have invited you. I asked you face to face, and then I sent you a letter.
Here's the receipt, by the way.
That's right.
Yeah.
And we need them to see it,
Yes,
but they
sir.
don't have experience. And that's really the problem, is they're trying to do something that the thought of electric vehicles has been around for 100 years. That we haven't done it because the technology isn't there
Right.
yet. It's probably useful in some areas, some urban areas, that's fine, but not for 287 million cars that are on our roads.
You're right.
So let's not mandate something. Let's get the government out of the way, and let's let private innovation that has actually fueled our economy right here in Midland and Odessa continue to work.
Well, we know that this is all regarding the whole new Green Deal, climate change, and so forth. Now, looks like the Biden administration has done it again. They're wanting a climate emergency bill. Can you get us some details on that?
Every opportunity they have assaulted this industry.
Yes, sir.
With every tool they have, the EPA, the Department of Energy, it doesn't matter. So now, this is no surprise to people, what they want to do is they want to use in the spirit of a climate emergency, they want to issue executive orders to actually implement sweeping climate policy changes that would include things like mandating 50% electric vehicles by 2030. So Senator Shelley Capito Moore from West Virginia, somebody who is a fierce advocate of the energy industry, and West Virginia knows a little bit about energy as well. She and I have partnered on this, and we're pushing back. We're pushing back on the administration, and we're saying no. And you know who's going to be interesting to watch on this one is Senator Manchin, also from West Virginia.
Yeah.
Where's he going to fall? Because he knows about energy.
Yep.
So is he going to support our legislation? I think he probably will. And we're telling the administration, you can't use the word climate emergency to implement things that don't work, that are unrealistic, that would actually hurt our economy. And in the end, they hurt the most vulnerable in our country.
Well, it seems like this climate emergency has been manufactured because we saw the fires in Canada is pushing tons of CO2 into the atmosphere. We've got fires in Mexico. All of these things. Is that, and they look like they've been started, is that what they're basing this climate emergency on?
Absolutely. Spencer, come to Washington, D.C. and sit in a Homeland Security hearing.
Can I?
Our border issues are
love
because
You
that.
can't talk. You'd have to listen.
You can listen. You can sit there.
listen? I
And what
promise I'll be
what
quiet.
you would hear is the manufactured crisis that our climate is
Right.
causing mass migration into this country. There's no question that for millennia the climate has changed. That's a fact. But to say that we have an emergency right now, when you're looking at 4 or 5 years, 10 years, and then to blame all of the issues in this country on that, it's very disingenuous. It's hurting our country. It's actually hurting the planet more than helping it.
100%. So thank you for fighting that fight. Now I'm going to circle back to what you stated at the beginning. I'm sorry, I have to do that when you're in studio.
I'm going to put on your red wig.
No. But you said yesterday when you were at the town hall, one of the things that was brought up was the two-tiered justice system, and we're seeing that more and more and more. What are you seeing in Washington, and do you think that there is I realize we do not have the majority, and people still don't quite understand that we don't have the majority, so that's why we can't change a lot of these things. But kind of walk us through that.
Well, Americans are waking up right now, and they're waking up to the news cycle where Hunter Biden is sitting with his father, and they're calling a Chinese businessman that has direct ties to the Chinese Communist Party. In fact, shares a bank account with a lead security agent, basically the equivalent of the head of the CIA in China. And they're demanding money be paid to them or else. And they're threatening these Chinese Communist Party people for millions of dollars. We know, and the only reason we know this, we don't have a majority in the Senate. We don't have the White House, but we have a 5-seat majority in the House of Representatives. And the only reason we know this fact is because Jamie Comer and others have had whistleblowers come forward, and it's taken 5 months just to get documents that have proven the money trail, that have proven that these transcripts exist, that have proven the fact that there is a massive cover-up inside the Department of Justice from Merrick Garland, the AG, inside the IRS and other agencies. It's sickening to think about this. I don't care what political party you are. If you do these types of things, and if our president, the commander-in-chief, the person that is entrusted with the nuclear codes, that is entrusted with our national security, if he is bought and paid for by a foreign adversary, the American public is not okay with that. And we shouldn't stand for that. So where is Merrick Garland on bringing a case against Hunter Biden and even the president in this case?
Isn't McCarthy going to, here we are, he's saying he's going to file for impeachment of Garland. What is the chance of any of that? I mean, you can file it, but is there any way it would pass at all? I mean, this is huge.
This
to
is
me.
serious stuff.
Whenever you're talking about so many different things, we can go back and circle back and talk about the border. We can talk about what's going on in energy. But the fact that our government is as corrupt as it is,
the unelected bureaucrats have taken over and are complicit in covering up for the Democrat Party, and we're seeing that. And I think the chances of actually getting accountability are good. Mm-hmm. We take this very seriously. We're not like Adam Schiff, who lied about Intel, who had access to the most sensitive classified information in this country, and yet he presented to the American public something that was completely false. We know because of the Durham report that this was manufactured by the Democrat Party. It was manufactured by Hillary Clinton. And all of these things that alleged that President Trump was colluding with Russia or Ukrainians or any of these things were false. But yet we spent years and millions of dollars investigating that, impeaching him. This is why Speaker McCarthy has said that Merrick Garland not taking action and complicit in the cover-up deserves to be impeached. Now, we take it seriously, and we're going to get the facts. We're not going to do it based on a politicized way. We're going to look at the facts and I hope deliver to the American public a factual, reasonable outline of exactly what happened. And if it deserves impeachment, then yes, that's where it needs to go.
You know, that's kind of the dividing line between the Republicans, the conservatives, and the Democrats. It's facts versus feelings. Everything they do is feelings. We don't like Orange Man. And you guys are bringing the receipts, which I love.
Real quick, because I know we're getting close and you've got to go. You've got important coffee business to take care of. But how safe do you feel our election process is going to be moving into 2024?
There's still work to be done. In places like Texas, in places like Georgia, in other states who have actually taken, the state legislatures have taken action. You know, thank you to Representative Landgraf. I mean,
he's here tomorrow.
He's leading on these issues. He went to Austin and led in securing our elections. And Speaker Craddock went to Austin, and they led in these. And Senator Sparks helped to get Texas right. We don't need a federal takeover of elections. That is the last thing we need. But we do need states, and You know as well as I do that New York and California are not going to take those steps. They're going to
course
mass
not.
mail ballots. They're going to harvest those ballots. It's concerning. The Republican answer to this and the legislation that we have for this is show me your ID when you register. When you vote, that ID needs to match that registration. And when that vote is tallied, they need to match up that ID, your registration, with who you are, whether it's a mail-in that you've requested, not because they just sent it to you, or when you go to the poll. So cyber attacks will always be something that
Of
we're
course.
worried about. And I feel good about where this country is on the cyber side of it, but more work needs to be done at the state levels.
All right. It's all you. We'll let you wrap it up so you can get to and talk to everybody that's showing up for coffee with the congressman here in Odessa.
Well, I would invite everybody to come out just in a few minutes at 8 o'clock at the Press Cafe on Parks Legato.
It's in the Sewell.
That's exactly right. And, please come out, and I'd love to shake your hand. And I want to tell you thank you. I want to tell you thank you for what you do in the oil and gas industry, for what you do to support our national security. Just to say thank you for being a hardworking American. Regardless of where you fall on the political spectrum, please come out. And I'd love to say thank you and shake your hand and meet you. 8 o'clock, it's informal. We'll have a conversation, just in an informal way. I'll be around the Permian Basin today talking to industry leaders, gathering facts, bringing them back to Washington, D.C. But this is an opportunity, like our town hall, for me to meet you and to say thank you for what you do for our country.
Can they still buy? I had somebody ask me this, and I was going to get online, but I can just go directly to the source. Can they still buy all the merchandise, Midland over Moscow, the hats and everything?
Yes, absolutely. And that is the Pfluger for Congress website.
Yes, it is.
Different than the Pfluger.gov, that's the official site. And if you want to sign up for the Pfluger Flyby, the weekly newsletter, go to Pfluger.gov, Pfluger.house.gov. But yes, Midland over Moscow hat has been very popular.
Yes, it has.
Most of my congressional colleagues, if they don't have one, they're hounding me for one because they love the hat. And they know where Midland is. They know where
Yes.
Odessa is.
Yes, it's
and they love
incredible.
it. So I see a lot of my congressional colleagues wearing it, actually.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's pretty neat. But
So
yes.
it is still, you heard it here. You heard it here. You can still get it over on Pfluger for...
August Pfluger for Congress.
All right, I'll share that over on our Facebook page too. And again, go see him. He's heading right now over to, what's the name?
Press Cafe.
Press Cafe. That's at the Sewell Company.
That's right, on Parks Legato,
There you go.
4400 Parks Legato.
Yeah,
Starts
just
at 8
out there
o'clock.
on 191.
And it's 7:30. I'm going to go straight from the studio there, so I'll be there a little bit early to say hi to anybody who shows up early. But Kris, Spencer, thank y'all for having me. Thank you for getting the facts out. And, for this area, when people are driving to work right now and they're
Absolutely.
doing the business of powering our country despite the fact that this administration has assaulted the industry that's literally keeping the lights on.
Right.
Thank you for that. I'm your champion in Washington, D.C. I'm going to continue to fight for you, for what you do, because our national security, quite frankly, depends upon it. And it's not going anywhere. Despite what the Biden administration says, this industry is not going anywhere. It's only going to improve our quality of life.
Congressman Pfluger, thank you for coming in. As you said, it's so great to see your face. Anytime you want to call, you are welcome, but it's wonderful actually having you here. You can actually, if you're missing this right now, it is over on our Facebook page, so you can watch this when you get home later. Share it with your friends. But thank you for what you do. You are fighting the fight for the Permian Basin, the surrounding area. We appreciate you.
Well, thank you, Kris. Thank you, Spencer, for having me, and God bless everyone in the Permian Basin.
Well, God bless you.
God bless
Have
you
a
too.
wonderful day.